Hello there, you're now with me, Hendy Gui, and this is TVS Nightline. Without further ado, let's dive into today's topics. The Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah has reminded all parties not to quickly become complacent and satisfied in the efforts to curb COVID-19 in the country. Instead, efforts should be continued to contain the spread of the infection, especially with the emergence of various new variants.
Kerajaan hendaklah terus berusaha untuk menurunkan kes jangkitan harian COVID-19 dan mencapai immuniti kelompok dengan seberapa segera.
In taking cognizance of the fact, the King said a whole-of-society effort strategy should be intensified with effective communication narratives. Al-Sultan Abdullah said the country is now on firm track in combating COVID-19 through the formation of the National Recovery Council (NPN) and the implementation of the National COVID-19 Immunity Program, as well as financial assistance and economic stimulation packages for the people. The Yang di-Pertuan Agong clearly appreciates the government's continuous efforts in implementing various strategies to deal with the pandemic and its impact on economic aspect, social and people's well-being.
Manakala peratus kes sembuh COVID-19 di negara kita adalah tinggi dan majoriti kes baru pula adalah tergolong dalam kategori 1 dan 2. Malahan, negara kita adalah antara negara dengan kadar vaksinasi terpantas di dunia. Pencapaian tersebut sudah pasti merupakan hasil daripada kejayaan program imunisasi COVID-19 kebangsaan dan program imunisasi industri COVID-19 kerjasama awam swasta.
Meanwhile, on a separate development, the King has called upon the government to accelerate the nation's economic recovery by drafting business and investment-friendly policies to boost the nation's competitivity. He said the right amount of expenditure should also be provided to fund public health measures, provide assistance to the affected groups, as well as support to boost business activities in line with the reopening of the economy.
Al-Sultan Abdullah said to enable additional expenditure for these purposes, the government will table a proposal in the Dewan Rakyat to raise the spending ceiling of the COVID-19 fund as well as the statutory limit of the government debt.
Peningkatan daya saing negara juga perlu difokuskan terhadap usaha menambah baik ekosistem serta persekitaran perniagaan bagi meneroka penciptaan kekayaan baru dan menambah nilai terutamanya oleh perusahaan mikro, kecil dan sederhana.
Additionally, the MSMEs should also be encouraged to manage their business digitally to ensure a wider market access, adding that the economic growth sectors should also be identified so that Malaysia will not be left behind in the global arena.
Sektor-sektor tersebut sangat berpotensi untuk penciptaan sumber kekayaan baru negara. Di samping berupaya menjamin sekuriti dan nutrisi makanan negara.
The government will be tabling the 12th Malaysian Plan for the period of 2021 to 2025 and will introduce a number of policy reforms and structural transformations to place the country's development on a stronger foundation. To date, the government has implemented various economic stimulus and recovery packages worth a total of 530 billion ringgit for the people's benefit.
Now, as Sarawak strives towards becoming a developed high-income state by 2030, the emphasis is now on environmental sustainability to pave the way for more investment flow into the state. This, Chief Minister Datuk Patinggi Abang Johari Tun Openg said, will co-create solutions, open up more green jobs and business opportunities to drive the economy in a sustainable manner.
Sustainable development is always a priority agenda of the state TVS government under my leadership. And we are committed to strike a balance between the need for development and safeguarding the well-being of our people.
The Chief Minister said environmental sustainability is listed as one of the state's main components, with objectives to prosper Sarawak and its people, whilst simultaneously protecting the environment and staying true to its sustainable development goals. Part of the state's commitment towards the matter is the amendment to the Natural Resources and Environment Ordinance Bill 2019, which enables a more suitable management of natural resources and environmental protection through the Natural Resources and Environment Board, or NREB.
That with this amendment, open burning activities on native customary land NCL for commercial purposes is now regulated to ensure that the implementation of socio-economic transformation projects and the programs in the state are carried out in a sustainable manner. And this revision is necessary for the state to prepare under MA 63 transfer autonomy to accept additional responsibility in managing environmental matters under the current Federal Environment Quality Act 1974.
Additionally, the penalties have been increased to 100,000 ringgit for all environmental offences on land pollution, inland water contamination, and open burning.
Meanwhile, the Chief Minister said that the COVID-19 pandemic has affected not only human lives, but also the environment. He noted that the situation, especially the medical waste, has become a major threat to both public health and the environment.
While the pandemic situation has improved the air quality and reduced GSG, that is greenhouse gas emission, in different cities around the world in 2020, including the lessening of water pollution, there are also negative consequences of COVID-19 towards the environment.
He regarded the use of personal protective equipment, PPE, such as masks and hand gloves, as contributors to the increase in medical waste. Citing Asian Development Bank 2020, he said cities like Manila, Kuala Lumpur, Hanoi, and Bangkok produce up to 154 to 280 million tons more medical waste in a day than before the pandemic. Sarawak alone produces up to 628,000 used face masks in a single day.
If these PPEs are not properly disposed of, they will lead to major environmental impact. Wind or rain water may deposit the used PPEs into our streams or rivers, and thus also polluting the rivers with the deadly virus that could possibly reinfect us.
Thus, he urged the public to be mindful of the third wave of the COVID-19 and reminded them of the dangers of indiscriminate disposal of the PPE. Earlier, Abang Johari officiated the 9th Chief Minister's Environmental Award (CMEA) on Monday morning. The award serves to recognize industries, businesses, local authorities, and individuals that demonstrated their corporate environmental responsibility through their organizational green initiatives in reducing carbon footprints in their production processes and operations.
2 workers' quarters at an oil palm plantation were razed to the ground in a fire early Monday morning. Firefighters took an hour to reach the site at Sungai Tiseg Betong, located 19 kilometers from the District Fire and Rescue Station, after receiving a distress call at 7:07 a.m. The quarters were already up in flames by the time the team arrived.
Datanglah bersama juga dengan nilai kerugian. Tapi mengikut menurut keterangan saksi, kebakaran tersebut bermula daripada blok D, itu bilik dapur di bilik nombor 3. Jadi itu yang maklumat kita terima lah. Rumah terbakar ni dia ada 2 blok. Jadi keseluruhannya ada 24 orang lah. Jadi maksudnya pecahan di sini 10 perempuan dewasa dan 14 lelaki dewasa. Dan buat masa ini, masa ni tadi tinggal di rumah ketiga yang berdekatan lah.
Most of the quarters occupants were foreigners. He added among the difficulties faced by the bomba includes weak internet access, which limits communications, and the lack of fire hydrant pipes. The team were forced to use the water from a pond near the fire.
Dan sampai di lokasi lebih kurang tekan sejam lah, itu 7:55 pagi. Dan jarak, kita tengok jarak ke lokasi 19 km dan ini mengambil masa hampir sejam ke lokasi, memandangkan keadaan jalan raya yang berlubang lah. Ya, itu adalah salah satu kita punya rintangan lah.
Meanwhile, firefighters managed to prevent the fire from spreading to another 2 blocks, which only suffered 5% damage. No injuries or casualties were reported.
A foreign oil palm plantation worker died when the motorcycle he was riding was involved in an accident with an oil tanker at Bekenu Junction, kilometer 39 of Jalan Miri Bintulu at around 6:40 a.m. this morning. The deceased, identified as Muhammad Yahya Simang, 43, from Indonesia, was pronounced dead at the scene by medical personnel. Sarawak Traffic Investigation and Enforcement Chief Superintendent Naga Chabu said preliminary investigation found that the oil tanker and the motorcycle were travelling in the same direction from Miri towards Lapok. It is believed that the accident occurred when the tanker driver attempted to overtake the 2 motorcycles in front and rear-ended the victim at the junction. The victim was dragged at a short distance, pinned under the tanker. Earlier, Miri Fire and Rescue Department Chief Lopo Kyong said 8 personnel were rushed to the location after receiving a distress call. Upon arrival at 8:33 a.m., Bomba personnel found the wreckage where the victim was pinned under the tanker. Rescue works to extricate the victim was immediately carried out.
Kejadian berkenaan terjadi ketika motosikal nak keluar dari simpang menuju ke Bekenu. Dan tanker ni pula daripada Miri Mahala ke Bintulu menyebabkan seorang mangsa terkorban. Mangsa adalah seorang warga Indonesia, lelaki berumur 43 tahun. Mangsa tersepit di bawah kenderaan tanker dan pasukan bomba perlu menggunakan alat hidrolik cutter untuk mengeluarkan mangsa daripada bawah kenderaan berkenaan.
The body has been handed over to the police while the lorry driver has surrendered himself at the nearest police station to facilitate further information. The case is being investigated under Section 41(1) of the Road Transport Act 1987. The newly completed Satok Suspension Bridge has been the latest recreational location for many locals in Kuching. However, the iconic landmark was recently hit by vandals. In hopes of emulating a practice of padlocks symbolically fastened to the bridge, the action was condemned by members of the public. The love lock with names of loverbirds known as Atil and Putri latched on the bridge were removed.
The love lock was discovered by a local man who traverses the bridge for his leisure early morning walk.
Okey, selamat pagi. Tiap-tiap pagi aku lalu di situ. Daripada pagi tu aku terkejut dengan benda tu. Ya, kira tak nak mula macam di Korea ke di sini ke tu Sarawak dan mula macam tu.
The man said such act as a form of vandalism towards public property. Shortly after the video went viral, a few individuals went to the bridge to take off the padlock. Many criticized the couple's attempt to start the love lock trend as it can lead to the bridge collapsing. In 2014, part of the Pont des Arts Bridge in Paris collapsed due to the overwhelming weight from the padlocks, which prompted authorities to remove all the padlocks, banning the action altogether. South Korea has also implemented the same ban. Local authorities have yet to speak about the matter.
Now, an excavator operator was buried together with the heavy machinery after large debris of rocks fell at the Bau quarry. The victim, identified as 48-year-old Antoni Kana, was maneuvering his excavator to do leveling works before the site collapsed. The rescue operation was halted at 8:45 p.m. due to safety factors as the nightfall and will resume tomorrow morning.
Kesan dari bom tadi tidak nyakit perasaan yang bongkahan batu tersebut jatuh. So, jatuh je benda tersebut terlimpah. Dia dapat menyedari kedudukan bekas bom tadi. Terdapat bongkahan batu yang betul-betul longgar. Dan kedudukan sekarang ni pun masih ada dapat batu-batu kesan dari bom tengah hari tadi masih jatuh-jatuh lagi.
Both the victim and the excavator was buried underneath large boulders, some measuring up to 20 meters. The Fire and Rescue Department received a distress call at 3:18 p.m. and rushed to the site located at Jalan Tanjung Durian. Rescue and clearing works at the site was halted for 4:45 p.m. due to a heavy downpour and resumed at 5:30 p.m. For records, bombing activities were conducted yesterday, which might have compromised the rock structure, making it unstable and leading to the collapse.
Seiring dengan perkembangan teknologi komunikasi, kerajaan terus memberi tumpuan dalam memperluaskan capaian internet di 839 lokasi, terutamanya di kawasan penempatan orang asli dan terpencil di Sabah dan Sarawak. Dengan usaha berterusan pihak kerajaan untuk menyediakan infrastruktur kepada rakyat, Pelantidakan Jalinan Digital Negara atau Jendela telah dilancarkan pada 2020. Ia dilaksanakan secara berfasa melibatkan penamatan rangkaian 3G pada akhir 2021. Seterusnya, pemantapan rangkaian 4G dan penggunaan 5G bagi mengakses talian mudah alih berkelajuan tinggi di seluruh Malaysia dapat direalisasikan. Teknologi terminal satelit aperture sangat kecil (VSAT) antara infrastruktur penting untuk merapatkan jurang digital di kawasan pedalaman. Dengan adanya capaian internet berkualiti, komuniti di kawasan pedalaman dapat membina kemahiran pembelajaran dalam talian serta membantu meningkatkan ekonomi pengusaha IKS melalui e-dagang.
Hello there, thank you for staying with me. Now moving on, about 99.89% or 3,518 of the 3,522 new COVID-19 cases recorded in Sarawak are in Category 1 and 2. The State Disaster Management Committee said 4 cases or 0.11% were in Category 5, lung infection and requiring ventilator. The state also reported a promising recovery rate with 2,256 patients recovering from the virus.
Kuching District reported the highest number of infections in the state at 1,221, followed by Bintulu, 382, and Cebu, 232. 5 new fatalities due to COVID-19 were reported today, bringing the cumulative number to 630. At the same time, 2,256 patients had recovered from the virus. COVID-19 RT-PCR and RTK antigen test results are no longer required for inter-district travel across the state, except for Bintulu District. Sarawak State Disaster Management Committee said that this latest decision comes into effect from tomorrow, September 14th. The committee said a police permit is still mandatory for those who wish to travel inter-district. 6 new clusters emerge, where all clusters are community clusters. The cluster dubbed as Sungai Kerubong Cluster in Serikei, Sungai Sujan Mapok Cluster in Sebau, Sungai Dabai Cluster in Pakan, Andi Liam Cluster in Beluru, Pulau Brunei Cluster in Lembang, and Tinwar Kelekuk Cluster in Subis. Meanwhile, 4 cluster has ended statewide after no new infections reported in the last 28 days. There are now 137 active clusters in Sarawak, where 22 of the clusters reported additional 304 new infections.
As of August 31st, the Delta variant remains the most dominant variant circulating in Sarawak. The overall detection rate has gone from 82% to 99% in just over a month, as reported by Unimas Institute of Health and Community Medicine, IHCM.
Genomic sequencing on the SARS-CoV-2 variants have been continuously undertaken by IHCM. The Institute's director, Professor Dr. David Pereira, said as of August 31st, out of 307 COVID infections, 303 were Delta variants. The data suggests such situation had occurred in Kuching, Serian, Semarahan, Siraman, Betong, Serikei, Muka, Miri and Limbang divisions and import cases with 100% detection rate. Cebu and Kapit divisions, on the other hand, had registered 97%, while Bintulu recorded 98% detection rates. The IHCM will continue working hand-in-hand with the Sarawak Disaster Management Committee SDMC in tracking variants circulating in Sarawak.
As the nation shifts its focus on the battle against COVID-19 and government exploiting the idea of transitioning from treating it as a pandemic to an endemic, Sarawak edges closer to reach its aim for herd immunity through vaccination. Therefore, the public have been told to embrace the new norm and continue to adhere to the standard operating procedure in preventing such effort from being derailed by new wave of infections.
Mendapat suntikan vaksin yang lengkap bukan bermakna kita harus mengabai tanggungjawab untuk mematuhi SOP pencegahan seperti memakai mask, jaga penjarakan atau kebersihan diri. Mendapat vaksin penuh bukan bermakna kita bebas dari jangkitan virus COVID. Tetapi sekurang-kurangnya kita ada pelindung untuk dijangkiti secara serius atau mungkin proses rawatan lebih mudah serta peluang untuk sembuh lebih cepat. Apa-apa pun pematuhan SOP asas wajib diamalkan.
The Sumop Assemblyman further commented on the increased number of COVID-19 cases in the state that have affected businesses and services in his constituency. However, noted that situation are under control as most of them are vaccinated.
Ya, kita menyedari kes positif yang tinggi serta risiko. Tetapi keadaan ini tidak menghalang saya serta warga kerja di pusat khidmat saya untuk terus bekerja. Kami semua telah mendapat suntikan vaksin yang lengkap. Yang penting ialah disiplin untuk sentiasa berwaspada serta mematuhi SOP pencegahan untuk mengelak dijangkiti.
Therefore, Abdullah Saidul says that the people should adjust oneself to the new norm in carrying out daily activities and work.
Now, the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine will be suitable to be given to all age groups, including children below 5 years old. However, the outcome of the studies are expected to be announced by year-end. As of now, the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine had been tested and is suitable for children aged between 5 to 11 years old.
According to the manufacturer Pfizer, jointly developed the vaccine with a German-owned company BioNTech, the said vaccine on this group will start to administer this October. However, the use of the vaccine on this said group had to be approved by the Emergency Use Authorization EUA and US Food and Drug Administration FDA. Pfizer and BioNTech said they are confident with the clinical data tests and will be revealed soon.
They anticipate the FDA could make a decision on whether the vaccine is safe and effective in younger children within 3 weeks of submitting the emergency use authorization. According to the source, top U.S. infectious disease expert Dr. Anthony Fauci said that if the data supports the vaccine's use, by the time we get to October, the first couple of weeks of October, the Pfizer product will likely to be ready.
Meanwhile, BioNTech had to apply for permission from various countries to administer the vaccine to children at age below 5 years old in a few weeks to come. At the same time, Pfizer gave assurance that the studies made on the vaccine is suitable for children aged 2 to 5 years old.
As for children between 6 months and 2 years old, Pfizer said it could have a safety and immunogenicity data as early as October or November. So we can likely expect emergency use approval sometime then. So we can likely expect the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine to be available to all age groups worldwide by the end of the year.
On to some good news for startup companies. The Malaysian Global Innovation and Creativity Centre, or MAGIC, is collaborating with Penjana Capital Sdn Bhd to bridge funding gap faced by startups. This collaboration aims to unlock potential investment opportunities by matching investors with the right innovative startups.
In a statement, MAGIC said it will funnel its alumni, particularly for seed-stage startups, to venture capital under the Dana Penjana Nasional DPN program. The DPN is a matching fund of funds program and is part of the short-term economic recovery plan Penjana to enable startups to scale and expand their reach regionally and internationally. The agency also stated that the government will match 600 million ringgit on a one-to-one basis of the funds raised by venture capital fund managers from foreign and private domestic investors with a target allocations of 1.2 billion ringgit. By the end of May 2021, Penjana has raised 850 million ringgit, with more than half from foreign investors in Hong Kong, South Korea, and Singapore.
If he defeated the rebels, he would be given the international political sovereignty of this region.
I think Sadok was most important because it was such a symbolic event. The hauling of the cannon, it was epic in its nature.
Some even are furious by the Brooks because the divide and rule is started by the Brooks actually.
Follow us on Sarawak's journey to gaining independence as a state of Malaysia in this two-part documentary.
But to no avail.
Starting from the chronicles of the White Raja monarchy who founded the Kingdom of Sarawak in 1841 to wartime Sarawak in 1941 to becoming an entity of Malaysia in 1963.
In favor of it. There was a general consensus that we really have to be independent.
Don't forget to watch Road to Nationhood, Sarawak Reclaimed, Part 1 and 2, Thursday, 16 September, 4 p.m. on TVS Channel 122 Astro and MyTV.
Hello there and welcome back. Now on to some global updates. A concert pianist has converted a canal boat into a floating performance venue where music lovers can enjoy private recitals on cruises traversing London's waterways.
Masayuki Tayama, the captain and pianist of the piano boat, currently moored in Uxbridge, just outside London, said the vessel was the only one of its kind. Later that day, Tayama played a program, including Beethoven and Schumann, to an audience of a dozen people in the evening, dressed seated around tables covered in white tablecloths. Rihanna Henderson, manager of the project, said the idea of a floating concert venue came about when they were living on a narrow boat with a digital piano that was drawing interest from passerby.
This is the piano boat, which is the only canal boat of its kind. It was built to our specifications as a floating concert venue. So we have a brand new Steinway grand piano, and here we give musical experiences for people on the canals.
Henderson said that in the 2 months since starting the project, the couple have organized 5 cruises and 4 holidays and are booked up for the coming months. Tayama agreed that recitals on the boat created a unique interactions with the audience.
It's really nice to be able to talk to people who are there as the audience, because I mean I still play in regular concert halls as well, but when you play in a 4,000 seater, there's the lighting is blinding, and yes, that you can sort of make out that there are people sat there, but it's you project in a different way. But here, I think the whole intimacy of it, really sharing the musical moments, and for me to actually talk about the thoughts without having to use a microphone or shout at the top of my voice. It's a really different experience, and to be able to talk to people who are there afterwards is also great.
And that wraps up the Nightline for tonight, and thank you for tuning in. My name is Henry Gui. Stay safe and have a pleasant night.